I never thought I'd be sharing something so personal. But some stories need to be told, even if they break your heart in the telling. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how my perfect family shattered into a million pieces. It all started 3 years ago, when I was 17. Back then, I was just another high school junior in suburban Connecticut, trying to figure out who I was. My mom, Emma, was everything I wanted to be: successful, beautiful, and unstoppable. She built her real estate empire from nothing, working her way up from a small-time agent to owning 3 offices across the state. I was proud of her, but sometimes I wished she wasn't so busy. After the divorce from my dad, Jake, she threw herself into work even more. I get it now, it was her way of dealing with the pain. Dad wasn't a bad person, just absent. He moved to Boston for work and started a new family. We'd grab lunch every few months, have awkward conversations about school, and then go our separate ways. That's when Michael entered our lives. Mom met him at a charity gala. He was this charming tech executive who could light up any room. He made her laugh in a way I hadn't heard since before the divorce. Within 6 months, they were engaged. I should have been happy for her, but change has always scared me. Michael had a son, Ethan, who was 5 years younger than me. When they moved in, I braced myself for the worst: annoying kid brother, invasion of privacy, the works. But Ethan wasn't what I expected. He was quiet, smart, and weirdly mature for a 12-year-old. The first few weeks were awkward, like a badly choreographed dance. We'd bump into each other in the hallway and mumble quick apologies. Share silent dinners while our parents tried to force conversation. Everything changed the day I found him hiding in our basement. He was curled up behind the old couch, crying. Some kids at school had been bullying him about being the new kid. I sat with him for hours, sharing stories about my own middle school disasters. We laughed about how I once showed up to school with 2 different shoes. Something shifted that day. Maybe it was seeing his vulnerability, or maybe it was finally having someone to talk to. Our parents were always working, wrapped up in their new marriage and careers. Ethan and I found ourselves spending more time together. Late-night video game sessions turned into deep conversations. He'd help me with math, I'd teach him about photography. We developed our own language of inside jokes and shared looks. Our parents were thrilled, thinking their blended family experiment was working perfectly. If only they knew. The change was so gradual, I didn't notice it happening. The way my heart would skip when he smiled. How I'd find excuses to be near him. The lingering hugs that felt different from normal sibling affection. I told myself it was wrong, tried to date other guys from school. But none of them understood me like Ethan did. None of them could make me laugh until my sides hurt. None of them felt like home. Spring break changed everything. Mom and Michael rented a cabin by Lake Tahoe, thinking it would be good family bonding time. They spent most days in business calls, leaving Ethan and me to explore. One night, we snuck out to watch the stars. The air was crisp, and the lake reflected the moon like liquid silver. We were lying on the dock, pointing out constellations. "That's Orion's belt," I said, tracing the stars with my finger. "No way, that's definitely the Big Dipper," he argued, laughing. When I turned to prove him wrong, his face was inches from mine. Time seemed to stop. The world narrowed to just us, the sound of gentle waves, and the thundering of my heart. He kissed me. It was soft, hesitant, and absolutely terrifying. I knew I should push him away. I knew this was wrong on so many levels. Instead, I kissed him back. When we pulled apart, reality came crashing down. "Sarah." he whispered, his voice shaking. We can't, I said, but my hand was still holding his. I know, he replied, but I can't help how I feel. That night marked the beginning of our secret. Back home, we became masters of deception. We'd fight in front of our parents about stupid things, the TV remote, bathroom time, music choices. But when they weren't looking, everything was different. Secret text messages deleted immediately after reading. Brushed hands when passing in the hallway. Stolen moments in the basement while our parents worked late. We told ourselves it wasn't wrong because we weren't blood related. We weren't hurting anyone. But the guilt ate at me every day. I'd lie awake at night, staring at my ceiling, wondering how long we could keep this up. Wondering if this feeling was worth the risk. Some days I'd try to end it. I'd avoid him, make plans with other friends, try to create distance. But then he'd look at me with those eyes, and all my resolve would crumble. We were careful, so careful. Never being too friendly in public. Always maintaining a safe distance when others were around. Creating elaborate systems of signals and codes. But secrets have a way of surfacing. Like air bubbles in water, they always rise to the top. Summer came, bringing with it college application stress and longer days at home. Mom and Michael were planning their first anniversary celebration. They'd been so happy, so proud of how well their blended family had worked out. If they only knew they were living in a house of cards. One that was about to collapse. The day everything fell apart started like any other. Mom and Michael had dinner reservations at some fancy restaurant downtown. Don't wait up, Mom said, kissing my cheek on her way out. Have fun, kids, Michael added with a wave. The door closed, and the house fell silent. Ethan and I ordered pizza, sprawled on the living room floor with old photo albums. We laughed at embarrassing childhood pictures. Look at your braces, he teased, pointing at a particularly awkward 7th grade photo. Hey, at least I didn't have a bowl cut, I shot back, showing him his 3rd grade picture. Somehow we ended up sitting closer, shoulders touching. Looking at these memories felt intimate, like we were trying to understand each other's past. Do you ever wonder, he asked quietly, what would have happened if our parents never met? The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Sometimes, I admitted, but then I wouldn't have you. He turned to face me, and the world seemed to slow down. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. We'd gotten careless, too comfortable in our secret world. Neither of us heard the front door open. Neither of us noticed the sound of heels on hardwood. But we both heard Mom's sharp intake of breath. The photo album slipped from my lap, pictures scattering across the floor. Mom stood in the doorway, still in her evening dress, her face drained of color. Michael appeared behind her, confusion turning to understanding as he took in the scene. The way we jumped apart wasn't fast enough. The guilt on our faces said everything words couldn't. No, Mom whispered, her voice breaking. No, no, no. I've never seen someone's heart break in real time before. But I watched it happen in my mother's eyes. Mom, I can explain, I started, but what could I possibly say? How could I explain something I barely understood myself? Michael hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. He just stared at his son with an expression I couldn't read. The silence stretched like a rubber band, ready to snap. How long? Mom finally asked, her voice barely audible. Neither of us answered. How long? She screamed, making us all jump. Since Lake Tahoe, Ethan whispered, and I wanted to tell him to stop. To not make it real by saying it out loud. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. "Get up," Michael finally spoke, his voice ice cold. "Both of you, upstairs. Now." We moved like sleepwalkers, passing our parents without meeting their eyes. The last thing I saw before heading upstairs was Mom collapsing into a chair. The sound of her crying followed us up the stairs. That night, I sat on my bed listening to the muffled sounds of arguing downstairs. Mom's voice rising and falling like waves. Michael's lower tones, trying to calm her. Words like sick and wrong, and how could they floating up through the floor. I wanted to text Ethan, but they'd already taken our phones. I wanted to run away, but where would I go? I wanted to wake up and find out this was all a nightmare. But the reality was setting in, heavy and suffocating. We'd broken our family. We'd betrayed the trust of the two people who loved us most. And nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, the house felt like a funeral home. Mom's eyes were swollen from crying. Michael wouldn't look at either of us. "We need to talk," Mom said over untouched breakfast plates. "This ends now," Michael added, his voice firm but trembling. "Whatever this thing is between you, it stops today." I stared at my cereal, watching it turn to mush. Ethan sat across from me, but it felt like miles. "Ethan will be staying with his mother for a while," Michael announced. My head snapped up, panic rising in my throat. "You can't dash," I started, but Mom cut me off. "We can, and we will," she said. "This isn't up for discussion." "We trusted you," Michael said, his voice cracking. "Both of you." The words hit like physical blows. "I'm sorry," I whispered, but it felt inadequate. "How do you apologize for something like this?" Ethan left that afternoon. I watched from my window as Michael loaded his bags into the car. He didn't look up at my window. Didn't try to say goodbye. Maybe it was better that way. As the car pulled out of the driveway, I felt something inside me break. The house felt emptier than ever. Mom took a week off work, something she'd never done before. She alternated between crying and sitting in silence. Sometimes she'd look at me like she was trying to understand. Like she was searching for where she went wrong. But there were no easy answers. No way to explain how something so wrong could feel so right. No way to make her understand that we never meant to hurt anyone. The first part of my life had ended. And I had no idea how to begin the next. The silence in our house became unbearable. Every room held memories I couldn't escape. The basement where we used to play video games. The kitchen where we'd make midnight snacks. The living room where everything fell apart. Mom started going to therapy 3 times a week. She'd come home with red eyes and new rules. No phone, no social media, no going out except for school. My friends noticed something was wrong. "Where's Ethan?" they'd ask. "Did he move back with his mom?" I'd nod and change the subject. The rumors started anyway. Whispers in the hallway. Stares in the cafeteria. Someone must have figured it out. Maybe a neighbor saw something. Maybe Michael told someone. Maybe the truth was written all over my face. High school became a minefield of judgment. Some people stopped talking to me completely. Others watched me like I was some kind of twisted entertainment. My best friend Ashley was the only one who stuck around. She didn't ask questions. Just sat with me at lunch when no one else would. Brought me homework when I couldn't face going to school. "Whatever it is," she said one day, "it doesn't change who you are." But hadn't it? I wasn't the same Sarah anymore. That girl died the night our secret came out. Mom finally broke her silence one evening. She found me crying in my room, looking at old family photos. "I'm taking you to see someone," she said softly. "A therapist?" I asked, wiping my eyes. She nodded. "We both need help, Sarah." Dr. Martinez had an office that smelled like lavender. She didn't judge or lecture. Just listened as I poured out everything. How lonely I'd been after the divorce. How Ethan filled a void I didn't know existed. How confused I was about everything. "Trauma and isolation can create intense bonds," she explained. "But not all bonds are healthy, even if they feel right." She helped me see things differently. How our secret relationship was built on shared pain. How we'd used each other to cope with our broken family. How it felt like love was really just two lost kids clinging to each other. Weeks turned into months. The scandal at school eventually died down. New dramas took its place. But the emptiness remained. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text him. Then remember I couldn't. Shouldn't. Mom and Michael tried counseling too. They wanted to save their marriage. "We've all lost too much already," Mom said. "But some breaks can't be fixed." Michael moved out in October. Said he needed space to think. To figure out how to be a father again. Mom threw herself into redecorating the house. Painting over memories. Rearranging furniture like it could rearrange the past. I helped her, hoping physical labor would quiet my mind. We didn't talk about him. About any of it. But sometimes I'd catch her watching me. Like she was trying to piece together a puzzle. Senior year trudged on. College applications became my escape. I applied to schools on the West Coast. As far from Connecticut as I could get. My grades had slipped after everything. But my essay about personal growth caught some attention. I didn't write about what really happened, of course. Just about learning from mistakes. About rebuilding after everything falls apart. Ashley helped me pick out schools. "You need a fresh start," she said. "Somewhere nobody knows your story." She was right. The acceptance letter from UCLA felt like a lifeline. Mom cried when I showed her. Happy tears this time. "Maybe it's good," she said. "For both of us." I knew what she meant. Distance might help us heal. Help us forget. Christmas came and went. No family photos this year. No awkward blended family dinner. Just Mom and me, ordering Chinese food. Watching old movies like we used to before everything changed. It felt like starting over. In January, Ashley dragged me to a party. "You need to start living again," she insisted. I met a guy named Chris. He was nice, normal. Liked photography and indie music. Asked me on a coffee date. I said yes, surprising myself. The date was pleasant. No fireworks. No earth-shattering connection. But maybe that was good. Maybe that's what healthy felt like. Slow and steady. No secrets or shame. Dr. Martinez said it was progress. "You're learning to form appropriate relationships," she said. "To recognize health. High boundaries." The words still stung. Made what Ethan and I had feel dirty. Wrong. But I was starting to understand. We'd been two drowning people. Pulling each other under while thinking we were saving each other. March brought college acceptance season. UCLA became real. Mom helped me pick out dorm supplies. "I'm going to miss you," she said, folding sheets. But I think we both need this. She was healing too. Started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee dates and movie nights. Learning to trust again. One night, she sat me down. I got a call from Michael, she said. My heart stopped. Ethan's doing better, she continued softly. He's in therapy too. Applied to colleges in Michigan. I nodded, not trusting my voice. We all made mistakes, Sarah. All of us. She took my hand. Michael and I, we were so wrapped up in our new life. In proving we could make this work. We didn't see how lost you both were. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry I wasn't there more. I'm sorry too, Mom, I whispered. We held each other and cried. For the family we lost. For the pain we caused. For the healing we were finally finding. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms. Nature's way of saying life goes on. Chris and I were still dating. Taking things slow. No pressure, no intensity. Just getting to know each other. It felt normal. Sometimes I'd catch myself comparing him to Ethan. But those thoughts came less often now. Dr. Martinez said that was progress too. Healing isn't linear, she reminded me. Some days will be harder than others. But you're moving forward. Graduation approached like a finish line. Mom helped me pick out a dress. Ashley and I made plans for one last summer together. The future stretched out ahead. Unknown but full of possibility. One day, cleaning my room for the move, I found an old photo. Ethan and me at Lake Tahoe. Before everything changed. We looked so young. So unaware of the storm coming. I thought about throwing it away. Instead, I put it in a box. Some memories you keep. Not to relive them. But to remember how far you've come. Mom found me packing and smiled. Ready for your new chapter? I looked around my childhood room. At the walls that held so many secrets. Yeah, I said. I think I am. We'd survived the worst of it. The scandal, the shame, the broken trust. Nothing would ever be the same. But maybe that was okay. Sometimes things have to break. So you can build something stronger. Something real. Something that doesn't need to hide in the shadows. Moving to UCLA felt like stepping into another world. The California sun erased the shadows of Connecticut. My dorm room was tiny, but it was mine. A blank canvas waiting for new memories. My roommate Rachel was from Oregon. She had blue hair and played guitar. Never asked why I sometimes woke up crying. Just made me tea and shared her cookies. College was different from high school. Nobody knew my story here. Nobody whispered when I walked by. I could be anyone I wanted to be. I chose photography as my major. Something about capturing moments spoke to me. Freezing time in perfect little squares. Making beauty out of broken things. Mom called every Sunday. Her voice stronger each time. She'd started her own podcast about real estate. Was thinking about dating again. I met someone, she said one day. A literature professor. Nothing serious. But he makes me laugh, Sarah. I could hear her smile through the phone. Chris and I tried long distance. Weekly Skype calls that got shorter. Text messages that felt more like obligation. We ended it mutually before Thanksgiving. We're different people now, he said kindly. Maybe we were always meant to be temporary. He was right. Some people are just chapters, not the whole story. I made new friends. Joined the campus photography club. Started taking portraits for the school paper. Life felt normal again. Until the email came. From an address I didn't recognize. But I knew who it was. "I'm sorry," it began. Ethan's words filled my screen. He was at University of Michigan. Studying computer science. Going to therapy twice a week. "I needed to tell you I understand now," he wrote. What we had wasn't love. It was two broken people trying to feel whole. My hands shook as I read. "I hope you're healing," he continued. "I hope you're finding yourself. I hope you're happy." I stared at those words for hours. Finally replied with just two. "Thank you." It felt like closing a door. Not slamming it shut like before. Just gently letting it click closed. Rachel found me crying on my bed. Didn't ask questions. Just put on some music and ordered pizza. "Whatever it is," she said, "it's okay to feel it." She was right. You can't heal if you don't feel. Spring semester brought new classes. New friends. New possibilities. I met James in advanced photography. He had kind eyes and paint-stained hands. Talked about light and shadow like poetry. Made me laugh without trying. We started slow. Coffee between classes. Study sessions in a library. No secrets. No shame. Just two people getting to know each other. When he kissed me for the first time, it felt different. Clean. Like morning sunlight. Mom came to visit for spring break. She looked younger somehow. More at peace. "The literature professor?" I asked. She blushed. "His name is David. He makes me feel safe," she added softly. I understood what she meant. Some loves heal you. Some loves break you. The trick is learning the difference. I showed her around campus. Introduced her to James. Watched her eyes carefully. Looking for doubt. For worry. Instead, I saw relief. "He's good for you," she said later. "I can tell by the way you smile. The real way, not the hiding way." She was right. There were no shadows in TH. Is love. No need to look over our shoulders. Just pure, simple light. Summer came again. I got an internship at a local gallery. James stayed too, painting murals downtown. We spent weekends at the beach. Talking about art and dreams. Building sandcastles just to watch them wash away. Learning that not everything beautiful needs to last forever. Ashley came to visit. Brought news from back home. Michael had remarried. Ethan was doing well in Michigan. Had a girlfriend named Sophie. "Everyone's moving forward," she said. It didn't hurt to hear anymore. Just felt like updates about characters. From a story I used to know. My photography professor liked my work. "There's depth here," she said. "Like you understand both light and darkness." If only she knew. My final project was a series. Called it Healing Spaces. Empty rooms filled with sunlight. Places where broken things become beautiful. Mom cried when she saw it online. "You've turned pain into art," she said. "That's what survival looks like." James held my hand at the gallery opening. Watched people study my photos. "You're amazing," he whispered. I squeezed his hand back. grateful for this simple, honest love. That night, I wrote one last email to Ethan. I hope you're happy too, I said. I hope you've found peace. I hope you know we're both okay now. Hit send without hesitation. No response needed. Some stories don't need endings. Just new beginnings. 2 years have passed since that night. Since secrets spilled like water. Since everything we knew shattered. But broken things can be beautiful too. Mom married David last spring. A small ceremony in their backyard. I took the photos. Captured her real smile, not the hiding one. James proposed under the stars. No hidden meanings. No complicated feelings. Just love, simple and true. I said yes without hesitation. Sometimes I think about that girl I was. The one who thought love meant secrets. Who confused pain with passion. I wish I could tell her it gets better. That real love doesn't hide. That family can break and heal. That she'll find her way to the light. But maybe she needed to learn it herself. Like I did. Through therapy and tears. Through art and honesty. Through breaking and healing. Through darkness and light. Now I know the truth. Love shouldn't feel like drowning. It should feel like breathing. Like coming home. Like stepping into sunlight. And finally, being free. End.